So just making sure. I think we got most everyone. Thank you for starting the recording, Andre. I guess we'll get started. And as people come on, just just flag at me and let me know. So thanks all for joining. This is the Advisory Council meeting on 27th of June of 2024. And we're going to be going through a few things here, just the usual introductions and attendance, some introductory remarks, open it up for public comment, meeting administration with it. I don't anticipate any changes or anything this time around. And then we'll go through our usual round of updates and then have our follow-up discussion and any closing remarks. And then that'll be it. Hopefully we will take a less time than usual, but we'll see. Depends on how the conversation goes, as always. So as we usually do, I would like to go down the list of the Advisory Council members and introduce ourselves as a way of taking attendance. So we'll just go ahead in order. As you see yourself here, just kind of chime in and let us know that you're here. So I'm Alfredo Herrera. I am the Geographic Information Officer at OPM. I don't think Scott is on just yet.
Okay, my name is Stuart Delan. I'm environmental analyst with CTT.
I think Elizabeth Congo might not be able to join us today, so if we could skip her.
Dan Chaya, I'm the GIS coordinator for the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection.
Gary Archambault, Chief Data Officer, Public Health.
Eric Snowden, IT and GIS Manager at the Capital Region Council of Governments.
Mark Hoover, I'm the GIS Director at MetroCog.
I don't see John, so we can skip ahead.
Hi, I'm Tracy. I'm the GIS analyst in the town of East Hartford.
Welcome. You are a new member to the council since the last one. So welcome, and we look forward to your contributions.
Thank you.
Emily, I believe, also had a conflict, but she may join later.
So I'm Pete Samperi. I'm the Supervisor GIS Operations at United Illuminating. I'm the Kira designee.
Megan McGaffin, representing General Assembly. I work for SLR Consulting out of New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay. Oh, looks like we got Emily.
Sorry, I'm late. Yep, Emily Wilson, UConn.
And I think we're still missing Scott, but that's okay. We'll proceed without him for now. I think he'll be on later. So thank you all for joining. I think the only real kind of introductory remark is just kind of like a more official, formal welcome to Ashley Benitez as our new GIS coordinator in focusing on broadband and location information. So that's like parcels, addresses, that sort of thing. So she will talk a little bit more about herself later when she does the broadband update. Beyond that, we've been hard at work on, a number of different topics. So we've, just been keeping our head down and trying to do some certain things and kind of keep the ball rolling with all of the various projects that are kind of ongoing. And with that, we'll open that up to public comment. So if anybody in the audience has anything that they would like to talk about or say, now's your time. All right, I'm not hearing anything, so we'll proceed on to meeting administration. Does anybody have anything that they would like to bring up under this topic? I I don't think from my perspective, we have anything for this particular meeting to do in this space. All right, moving right along. All right, so now we're going to dig into the our kind of GIS office priority topics and working group updates. Before we really dig into the GIS office updates, I do want to call out that we are still working on finalizing the documents for both the GIS clearinghouse working group and the parcel drafting guidelines working group. Those are both well into the kind of like deep into the editing and reorganization process, and we do anticipate having at least one, if not both, ready for the next council meeting to have the council members kind of review and kind of give us their opinions on and kind of go from there. I just want to acknowledge that Scott joined the call.
I apologize for joining late. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Sarah to talk about our first update.
Okay. Hi everyone. So these will soon be on the geodata portal, but we are publishing some new municipality and regional boundary feature layers, which are derived from the Connecticut DOT municipality layer. The reason that we're doing this is to provide users with a little bit simpler and lightweight data sets, so they'll just be fewer fields. And then also we're including the US Census FIPS codes that would allow users to like do analyses using census data more easily with the boundary layers. So in addition to the municipalities layer, we have that dissolved into a few of the regional boundaries. So we have a counties layer, a councils of governments layer, and then a planning regions layer. So the workflow was created in FME. So like I said, it's directly derived from the DOT layer. So we're just pulling the DOT feature service layer in and splitting it up into the 4 different layers. So we're moving some fields from the DOT layer, adding in the census FIPS codes, and that's pretty much what is for the municipality layer. And then for the counties, COGS, and planning regions layer, we're just dissolving the towns into those regions and keeping the FIPS codes in there for it. I see a hand up from, was that Brian? Okay, we can circle back. So I'm going to share my screen quick just to show you guys the feature layers that we have so far. I think that this worked. Okay. So this is the municipalities layer. So I have the fields here. So we kept, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fields. So you're going to see the municipalities, the COG that the municipality is in, the county, and the planning region. And then I have the FIPS codes for all of that, and then the whole FIPS codes for the whole municipality. And that's going to be it for these layers. It's just going to be like the names and the codes. So this is just what the data looks like. It's pretty simple. And then counties, we mentioned that the counties are only used in legacy geography and that the 9 councils of governments have replaced the counties. But we wanted to include this just for people to use. So in the counties, we just have county name, county FIPS, state FIPS, and then the full county FIPS And that's it for this one.
1 second. So 1 point of clarification. So the council's government itself did not replace it. It was officially redesignated to be the regional planning areas per the Census Bureau for complicated reasons. So we will be making that adjustment, but it is the regional planning agencies that were given the county equivalent designation. So just minor,
Yeah.
minor correction. Like we said, like these layers are still a little bit of a work in progress, but they were close to enough to completion that we wanted to highlight them here and have you guys and have the council kind of weigh in and see, give us any thoughts. So, sorry, continue.
That's okay. Yeah, thank you for the clarification. So then same exact thing for the COGS and the planning regions layer. We just have those few fields, COGS and the COG VIPs, and the same thing for the planning regions. So yeah, that's about it for these. We set it up in the FME workflow so that if in the future there's other branches we need to make for other like regional areas, we can. We'll set it up to automatically run every now and then so that any updates that are made on the DOT layer will automatically be updated on these layers. And yeah, I think that's all I have for this. If you want to reshare the presentation, Alfredo.
Yeah. So yeah, Meg, go ahead. I was going to actually call for questions. So if
All
anybody has any
right.
questions about these.
This looks awesome. Thank you for doing this. Has there been any update to, I have two questions. So I'll start with the first one. Has there, is the geography different? Has the boundary been up, like, are the boundaries improved?
So the boundaries, so what DOT did was they went and found as many surveys as they could for the regional councils of government and the various towns, and they tried to adjust the existing data set that used to be hosted by Deep for the municipalities, which, as we know, was of questionable cartographic accuracy, through no fault of their own, and just tried to clean it up. So it's really a tightened up cartographic representation of the municipal layers. The coastline has been redigitized. We verified it with elevation, and it's actually near as makes no difference, but we are still working on improving that through the use of elevation data to kind of actually say this is, like if the statute says this is where the boundary is, we're going to put that there, right? So really it doesn't change what is where, or whether this chunk got taken out of that chunk, or like I think there was an incident, not an incident, but like a situation where one of the town boundaries included an island that really belonged to somebody else on the Connecticut River, and we just moved the line. DOT moved the line. I don't remember if that got completed yet, but basically when that happens, we rerun the whole thing, and then all of the boundaries automatically just re-update it. It's kind of a non-issue. So like that DOT layer is meant to be kind of like the source of truth for where the lines are, and then like we vet that within OPM in conjunction with the Intergovernmental Policy and Planning Division, who has the responsibility for determining like what's actually in each of these boundaries. Because it is like these data sets are a kind of joint custody situation, if you will, as far as responsibility. So really, it's kind of our attempt to kind of make a cleaner, more accurate cartographic representation of all of the towns, but then B, all of those kind of related geographies that are kind of then derived from the position of those. So we just want to basically clean it all up. And then so what we did specifically with these layers is like that DOT layer is fantastic, but it has like 1,000,001 layers, and it can be a little bit cumbersome from someone that just needs to like do something with like other data. So we just made a very lightweight version of each of these with the FIPS code so that they can join into any and all census data that they want.
I know at one point, and I believe it was RiverCog had gone to the effort to update some of their own internal town boundaries. Did their improved data get incorporated into the DOT later?
I want to say yes, but I'd have to verify. I
Okay.
know we did collect from various so I know
Yeah.
DOT did collect those data from the
Okay.
various COGs. So where it was available, we actually did, they actually did get the resultant GIS data of the accurate boundaries, and we tried to align those as we could. I don't think they're completely done because they were focusing primarily on the coast to clean that up, but
Yep.
I know they have included at least Northeast Cog and possibly also River
Oh,
Cog.
cool,
So,
cool. And I don't want to take much more time, but the last thing I was going to ask is when Deep issued this before, they had a version that was good for clipping, a good that was a version, did you do the
yeah.
one that include all three versions?
We have not gotten there yet, but we will.
Okay.
We're still kind of figuring out what does that process look like. So I think that
Hmm.
once again, like I think that is an important aspect of it. Like that, we do need
Yeah.
to cover like the clipping ones all the way to the center. We're still working
Yeah.
on that, but we wanted to
Okay.
get like the one with the actual boundaries for each town
Yeah.
because that seemed like the most immediate need.
Beautiful. Thank you. That answers
Yep.
my questioning.
Yep. Emily, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, this sounds great and a big improvement. My question is there a way to somehow note the version if it's going to be changing over time? For instance, we'll pull this layer and create area summaries, over towns, but if the boundaries
Sure.
are changing, the total area is changing. So it would just be helpful to note which version was used in which project or analysis. I know you said the service itself would automatically update, but maybe there's some way in the metadata, at least
Yeah.
at time of download, to note which version that is.
Yeah, so yeah, that's something I think we can add to the metadata for sure. We'll have to talk internally and figure out like what the best way to execute that is, but that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions on this particular topic? All right. So with that, I will pass it off to Ashley to go over the broadband. You're muted.
That happens. Can you see the moving slides? I took control. Yeah, perfect. So, hi everyone. I am so happy to be here, and I'm glad that you guys are here. Like Fredo said, a longer introduction from me. Prior to here, I was at DEEP in the Office of the Commissioner, Office of Climate Planning, where I assisted with all sorts of climate planning activities, environmental justice, and grant coordination. I'm probably met some of you guys through DEEP. I'm also probably met some of you guys through the Connecticut GIS Network Steering Committee, and because I'm a member at large and I participated in the different activities, and I'm also a PhD student at the University of Connecticut. I'm in the geography department, which changed their name now. So I don't remember completely geography, sustainability, and community studies. I think it's the new title. So it's a longer title now. And in there, I'm doing also climate analysis and spatial temporal analysis over policies in the metropolitan region of Curitiba. So a very interesting part of my life is that, I've been moving through the intersection of policy and also spatial analysis. So I'm happy to bring that to this office now. Anyway, into broadband activities. I think the last update you heard about the challenge process as well. I need to increase the size of this. Yeah, you heard about the challenge process. The challenge process has a multiple subsets or subsections of phases. So the rebuttal phase just ended last week, and now we're moving into the BEAD program is moving into the final determination phase. If you want to read a little bit more about that challenging phases, you can follow that link in the BEAD program. But to talk a little bit about rebuttal, I don't want to bore you with any of this, but like you see in the bullet points, there was a number of challenges. I don't remember the quantity right now, but then now service providers could rebut allocation based on different things. There's different type of challenges. You can mention that there's a 16 broadband in certain service locations, or there's a enforceable commitment. There's plans of service of deployment of service there, or a community anchor could say, I am a community anchor, or I'm a new eligible community anchor. So that's some of the details there on who could rebut and how and what sort of rebuttals can be acceptable. So I'm gonna share a link later for flyer about the rebuttal if you want to learn more about it. You can also send me an email and we can talk more about it. In terms of data for this year's broadband 2024, we're going to start collecting information on broadband directly from the internet service providers. This is starting soon. I already contacted most of our top providers in Connecticut, and they all responded, says, yes, we're ready to send you the data. So this process is going to start pretty soon. In other exciting news, we also renewed our contract with Ookla, and now we have access to speed test intelligence, or SDI photo, and also data extracts. And this is what you're seeing in here in the left side. We have a dashboard. That one is a screenshot of the performance dashboard, and includes most of you probably have heard about speed test net. So it includes all the tests that are done by users at a resolution of 100 times 100 meter band. So it's right in there. And so the performance data includes like a download, upload, everything that it's recovered from when you do your speed test. And here, and if you want to know more, again, there's a consistency score, speed score that is like trademarked. That's created by Ookla. I can give you more info about that. Now, for everybody else that wants to, play a little bit more with data, there's also data that you can access from the Federal Communications Commission. This is an ArcGIS online, and this data set that you can play with. It includes the broadband data collection. Right now, I think the last update is from June 2023, but this happens semi-annually. So the next update the last update was in December 2023, and ArcGIS Esri is working diligently to creating the December 2023 layers but for fixed broadband availability, and you can have it up to the census block scale, actually hexagonal areas as well across the US. And you can also have access and look at Ookla data, the speed test net data at a coarser scale than us. I think the zoom level of Mercator tiles are at the 610 meters. So it's a little bit coarser, but it's also good if you want to do some research and analysis on your own. So I will share those links in a second. And I think that's all for me. I look forward to keep working with you guys, and also like hearing your comments about the rest of the projects that I'll be working on. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Ashley? All right, and now we're going to pass it off to Leah to talk about the ongoing parcel data collection for this year. If you want to take control.
Can everyone see the new slide?
You can indeed.
Okay, so right now we are wrapping up the initial steps in the process for this year's collection. Just a quick review of what I talked about before. The changes that we made to the collection is that we introduced a new parcel schema. It has about 12 fields in it. And we also made a new camera and parcel page, which houses a crosswalk, a file data database to put the data into, and a parcel schema description. For the CAMA, we have also added a new field, giving us a total of 137 fields. For the CAMA, the field we implemented was a suppression field, and that is to just double check that we're getting the data suppressed correctly, so there's no data leaks. For the suppression field, there has been significant back and forth between us and the CAMA vendors and us and the COGS to make sure that we are accomplishing all towns getting this new field added properly. And we are still working with the COGS and vendors to get all towns in compliance with this. For this year, we created a metadata dashboard for collecting information on the data for the towns. The survey itself is embedded in the dashboard, and we gave it to the COGS to distribute or do themselves. It gives relatively real-time updates when submitting. As of screenshot, which I think was Tuesday, we have about 146 submissions in total, with about 129 submissions having a legitimate link field for parcels. Legitimate meaning there's no like question marks or NAs, because we are very focused on getting any and all information. So if you have some information, you can fill out half and put question marks, and we can just consolidate it. And 137 links for the CAMA data. For the data in general, we started receiving parcel and CAMA data submissions, with at least 3 full COGs sending us their submissions this year, so we can get started on processing the data ahead of the early July deadline for this year.
I will add anecdotally, the number is currently at 153.
Yeah, significant increase.
And I think we have most COGs are actually at 100% completion for, as you can see there. There's actually a few more that got added, most notably in the northeast and northwest corner. They're not quite the northwest corner is not quite at 100%, but they're close, and they're doing the work. And so, you know, we're quite happy with the way it's gone. It has felt a little bit frantic on our end in the background. But you know, hopefully the experience from the end user is vis-a-vis the towns and the COGS has been that this has been a smooth process. And just, you know, kind of I want to note that, you know, we are always working to improve, and we expect next year to have a significant change in the way we collect the data. Hopefully, it's going to make it even smoother and more seamless, and just overall a better, more transparent and accurate process. And the other thing is that we do intend to start the process for next year a little bit sooner, just to kind of give ourselves more time for a what is going to most likely amount to a more significant shift in the way we actually transport the data from A to B. So those are some of the things that are kind of coming on this topic. And I just want to once again thank everyone, all of the COGs and all of the towns and vendors and everyone for working with us, and just making and being kind of open to communication and working through this whole process. Stu, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for all the work. If we got people writing in from the public about either or changes or inaccuracies to the data within either a single parcel or multiple parcels, is there a protocol yet for submitting or getting this over to you guys, or anything like that? Is there a process in place?
Right. So the interesting thing about individual issues or errors or things like that, unless it's like an incorrect suppression or a suppression that wasn't done, all of those requests need to go to the assessor in the town, because they are the owner of the data. We are aggregating the data and re-hosting it in a more convenient format and in an aggregated format. Both the raw data that we collect and the synthesized version that is the feature class that we publish. But we do not edit and manipulate the data in any way other than to kind of reformat it into a more convenient format.
Okay.
We do talk about that in a metadata to make it clear that we're not messing with the data. And it's, once again, it's not our place to kind of change any of that data because we are not the maintainers of that data. So if those kinds of requests come in, they just need to be directed back to the town's assessor. And for example, like say someone says, oh, I bought this house and it still shows the old one. It's like, yes, because that was the vintage of that data. That was the owner at the time. If that changed, it will be reflected in the next year's collection.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Any additional questions on this? Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have one thing to maybe consider is if you want, it seems to be difficult to get a consistent date of the CAMA export. I've put it in every email that I've sent, but we don't tend to get the October 2023 like for this year, or we didn't get the 22 from last year. It's almost invariably whatever date they exported.
Right.
So, and I don't know if that's, I mean, I think I've been clear enough, and I think it's very clear in your instructions on your website.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's a difficulty with the assessors doing that, or if it's an extra step for them might be an issue.
Right.
I'm really not sure. The only other thing would be to, if before the request comes from OPM directly to the towns, if we could verify that the CAMA vendors have their stuff all set first, because I mean, I know that that's not something that you guys have control over. It's the level of cooperation from the CAMA vendors and other things, but
yeah.
Just that being said, it's been much easier every year. So thanks to you folks for that.
Yeah, no, so the date thing has come up, and we have looked at it, and there's even more complications with the date, because then if you start talking about the vintage of the digital parcels as compared to the CAMA, that's even more all over the place and not as synchronized with the CAMA, just because of the timing of when these submissions and these requests have to be made statutorily. What I will say is we are aware of it. We are definitely thinking and trying to account for it. And we're going to have internal discussions to see what the best path forward is on that front. But that is something, that we have identified as an issue. And, like I said, I'm aware. We just haven't figured out quite what the best resolution is for that yet. But rest assured, as the years progress with this process, we will make those incremental improvements to the point where we actually do get there, and we, have a complete, very smooth process where we get the CAMA all in, with the right date, and we get the parcels that are actually synchronized with the CAMA, that the vintage of the CAMA that we are receiving. So yeah, these are things that we're working on. We're just still formulating the plan, and we are, we haven't even gotten all of the data for this year. And we are already, starting to think about, okay, these are the targets that we need to make for next year to improve this process. So,
Thank you.
Lindquist, I think you had a question.
Sorry, Alfredo, I raised my hand. I raised my hand on accident. I do have some comments, but I'll save them for the end if we have extra time.
Sure. Thank you. So we do have, so there's a question in the chat from Caleb about asking if we do have a consolidated CAMA table. We do have that available. It is on the open data portal. We can provide the link. I think Leah has that link. She can kind of drop it into the chat. But we have published that data set so that you can have, like, here is the breadth of everybody's CAMA in the 169 or 136 field schema. And that is on the open data portal and available. Any other questions on this topic? All right, well, I will move on to imagery. The imagery process, we are almost there. I know I always say this, but we really are closer than ever to actually getting the data completed on time. I will kind of just come straight to it and show the kind of the grid of the timings for when we are seeing we're going to be anticipating all of the data coming in. So, as you can see from all of these things here, we're expecting the block deliveries to come in very, very, very soon. Some of these have already been delivered. And some of these are still forthcoming. So I think the only thing that we really have left on the ortho imagery is we have to finish doing the QA/QC on the bottom of block 3, so the New Haven, kind of Hamden, West Haven area. So we're going to go check that area, finish up, and we anticipate having that back to them in a couple of weeks. And then the LiDAR and other derivatives will be coming soon after that. We do anticipate being pretty much done and everything, in the process of being published by the fall, for sure. At this point, like, all of the major stumbling blocks have been kind of addressed and dealt with, and we're making really good progress. The buildings are in the best shape that we've had them in so far. And just generally, we're kind of in a much better place than we ever have been, and we do anticipate this being kind of like in soon. So like there are a couple of weird little niggly things, but like overall, all of the data looks really good. Emily Wilson has already published the Block 1 as a beta service, so that is available on CT Eco already. You just have to go to the REST endpoint to go find it. I don't know that she has it actually published and announced because we're going to wait for that for the complete data set. She can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure she will.
I didn't know if you were waiting for me. No, that's right. There is a part of block 4 as well. In that service. It's a dynamic service. We're not going to bother tiling it or anything till the end. So if it takes a second or two to draw, but at least it gives some people, some areas a taste. And as soon as I get it, I'm publishing it as fast as I can. But
yeah, thank you. And then the other thing I will say is we do have access to the entire contiguous state from a QA/QC standpoint, like the preliminary data. So as you can see here, we have the whole kit and caboodle. We also have the equivalent in the near infrared. I just didn't show that one because, actually I did show that one. Haha, next slide. So with the near infrared, there were a couple of interesting banding issues. I don't know if it's quite noticeable, like right around here. There were some interesting kind of like a difference in the coloring and the kind of the bands kind of bleeding into each other. For their part, and to all due credit to Dewberry, they caught it themselves. They identified the issue. They figured out what went wrong. They fixed it, and they're reprocessing. So like the data that we will be getting for that area will look different than what you see here, and it will be corrected, and it will look comparable to what we see for the rest of the state. So once again, we're catching all these things. We are definitely getting the best product possible. I think it's just the resolution of everything that we've asked for has been so high. Many of the processes and equipment and things just haven't been ready for a product of this resolution, density, and scale. So we are kind of, I guess, paying the price for being on the bleeding edge, if you will. But I think the results are going to speak for themselves. And, even some of the preliminary derived products that we've seen come from other people have been nothing short of stellar. So, you know, this is the Hillshade DEM from Dewberry. As you can see, you know, like even at this zoomed out scale, there's a whole lot of detail there. We've got the deliveries for block 1, 2, and 3 for these. We've already returned the blocks 1 and 2 for our review. We're still doing blocks 3 and 4. So, you know, we're going through the process, but we're seeing very few errors on the DEM and the LiDAR side as far as like this. These are all definitely very kind of well understood processes, and even the density, even though it did kind of cause some issues initially, you know, like we're still getting an excellent product. So I'm not too worried about that. For the derivative products, you know, we're, you know, seeing lakes and ponds, they're all in excellent shape. The DM and all of that is like, we're not seeing any issues at this point. I think once we understood what the process was for them and what the thresholds for certain aspects of like the bridge saddles and things like that, once we understood what the parameters were, we're not seeing any issues. The 2D building footprints, they're looking so much better than they ever have been. There's still a couple of systematic errors, but like those are really tight neighborhoods that are just going to be generally very difficult to parse, and it's almost going to have to be a manual effort. But we also acknowledge that we've never really had a comprehensive building footprint data set for the state, and this is already significantly better than almost anything else that we've ever seen. So even as there are issues, and there is going to be a memo that was written by Dewberry to kind of explain why some of these errors exist and why some of these issues are there. You know, all of that will come with the data set. We will want to be as clear and transparent. And if there are any ways to kind of make improvements for the 2026 flight, we do intend for that to be an iterative process rather than just like, oh, we're going to extract them again. You know, we want to improve the data set as opposed to, you know, start from scratch, because that would make less sense. And then the 3D buildings, we've seen a sample of the 3D buildings, you know, to kind of see what their process would look like based off the data. From what I've seen, it looks very, very good. Once again, it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be as like accurate as we might like, but the big important buildings are being done manually. Especially the ones that are like, you know, stadiums, auditoriums, specific buildings that are very unique in shape, but and are also considered landmarks. Those are being done manually, but all of the procedurally done, like, you know, houses and kind of warehouses and things like that, those are coming out fairly close. You know, just bearing in mind that these are based off of a programmatic automated process. So, you know, it will never be perfect, is I guess what I'm saying, but we are anticipating a very high degree of quality regardless. So that's all I have for the imagery. One thing I will add is we are in the process of drafting a contract amendment with Dewberry to purchase impervious surface cover from them through a subcontractor named Ecopia. So we are in the process of kind of putting that together and getting it across the line. So expect to see more details on that as we kind of move forward with that process. But we do anticipate getting very, very high quality impervious surface information, vector information going forward. Go ahead, Meg.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. That's exciting news about the impervious surfaces. Thanks for looking into that. My question is about the lakes, rivers, and ponds, and this is a DEP and probably CT Eco question. Are the layers currently available through the DEP and CT Eco going to be updated, like the assessed waters, and you know, how are these derivative products going to be replacing what's publicly available, or is that going to be left as like, this is what we had and now this is what we have? Like how is that going to be managed in terms of like, just as an example, we were filling out a permit and there was a portion of a stream that was marked as a river, but it's really a stream, and I worked with Stu in the deep office to get this piece of water reclassified for a the issue that we needed. So are these updated layers going to be our source of truth going forward for future permitting activities and construction drawings and things like that? Like, are these the data?
That is a good question. I think we have to have some internal discussions to figure that out.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't gotten that far because we were obviously waiting for the data first, but I think that, yeah, we'll flag that for discussion. One other thing I will kind of add that's related to that, we have begun participating in a regional effort for all of New England to submit a DCA application with USGS for what's called the 3DHP project, I guess. So that's the updated version of the NHD, which is instead of it being manually drawn, it is elevation derived hydrography, and it's meant to be a hydrography model with elevation and flows and all of that. So we have actually have an active working group with literally every New England state east of New York involved and participating. We've had at least a pair of meetings, and we are moving forward on kind of pilot project selections, and we're planning to submit a proposal to USGS sometime in August, as well as we also have an internal 3DHP working group that I know Stu and Diava Lambert and Carl are all participating in to kind of make sure that we kind of go down that road and explore any options that we have to do it for ourselves.
Oh, cool. All right. That's good to know. Thank you.
The one thing I will say about the regional effort, and I'm just very impressed, is that first call was really kind of it made you feel very good because it was literally every New England state. We had representatives there from us, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And we were all, very on board with this project and trying to contribute. We all have very recent high quality LiDAR data. So I think there is a good case to be made to do a regional project.
So that would be a contiguous hydrological model derived from LiDAR for water systems across the entirety of New England, like a contiguous.
Yeah. As if we were one big state.
All right. And so that's kicking off, and you're planning on submitting this as a project to USGS.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, we are considering doing a deeper talk about this, a joint presentation at the Fall NEARC. So we've started discussing that, but by that point, we should actually know quite a bit more about this effort. But I just wanted to share that is something that we are working on and participating in, and I think it's safe to say that I think everybody involved is very excited about it.
I was going to ask if topology had been used on the water layer, but I didn't want to push my buttons, but this is even better. So thank you.
Yep. So we'll get there, but sometimes these things take a little bit of time. Any other questions on the imagery before we move to our last point of discussion? All right. So for the last discussion, I just wanted to have a quick follow-up, discussion on the presentation that was given to us by Josh Delmonico from FGDC about the National Spatial Data Inventory. And really, it's just I have 3 questions for this group. Once again, we can talk through them now. We can talk through them, now and later. So I guess I'll just kind of dig into each question. I'll ask them, and then people can kind of chime in on whichever one they have the most interest in. So the first one is, what topics or data sets is there interest in, beyond the ones that we've already started to tackle, like, obviously we just talked about hydrography. We just talked about the parcel data sets. There's also addresses that we've kind of are in various degrees of kind of like thinking about, as well as boundaries, like which we also talked about today. So are there any kind of priority data sets that this group would feel that we haven't really quite addressed yet that we should be? And then I guess the follow-on question to that is, if we do start going down this road, which we will, in creating more formal guidance and standards surrounding these data sets and saying, okay, this is how we do these things in Connecticut. You know, should we set up a working group within this that kind of like vets this and kind of figures out what does that creation process look like? You know, is there a period where we check the national standards, where we check across state borders to see what everybody else is doing? You know, like there's like some of these simple questions, but like, you know, maybe kind of like create a white paper like we have before for some of the other topics and say, this is the framework within which we are going to evaluate these things. And then I guess the last question is, one of the key takeaways that I got from Josh's presentation the last go around is that most of the audience have never really heard of the NSDI or FGDC. You know, they might know that they exist or they may have heard the acronym before, but there wasn't a sense of really deep understanding of what these things are, why they're important, how they're relevant to us at the local level, whether that's state, regional, or actual municipal. I just wanted to get everybody's thoughts on these three questions. Like I said, we can have an open discussion here. We can do it via other channels, but I just wanted to kick off the conversation and continue it as it was relatively fresh from the last presentation that we had in this venue.
Can I just jump in?
Please do.
So I can't think of a new data set right off the top of my head, but specifically address locating is becoming, it's always existed within DEEP, but it's become extremely relevant recently because there's kind of a renewed interest in compliance and enforcement mapping recently, which is, you know, stuff I've been part of across the agency. The issues that have been run into recently are when using default locators or local things that we're getting, you know, street center lines and running into a bunch of kind of point addressing where it's not actually related to the buildings that, you know, people are looking for building accuracy in most cases. So that's kind of this is kind of blown up around my agency at the very least. So you know, just a definitely behind that in terms of upcoming data sets to be developed. Within standards and guidance, the obvious, to answer the second question, I mean, the obvious thing would be to kind of follow any, would be to recommend following any federal or national standards. But I would say between the two agencies that are most, I think, involved with this already, you know, DEMIS and DOT, or DESPP, sorry, and DOT, I would rely on them when it comes to standards or frameworks that we should be following in developing a new geocoded or set to or address location set. So that's just my thoughts on it.
No, that's helpful. Any thoughts on, you know, like what kind of, you know, like if outreach and learning opportunities, would you want to see webinars, workshops? You know,
yeah,
I talk about it in general.
Honestly, I kind of like the way the approach that Carl used when your office was developing the 5-year plan in doing kind of the field the meetings at offices or at locations around the state. That was really cool to kind of interact with. And I think if we found focus groups, you know, state agencies like mine included, that could be notified of that. That would be, I think, a pretty strong way to start something like that.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, like I said, I mean, I think these are kind of heady topics, and I think the presentation there was a lot in there. Go ahead, Lisette. There was a lot in there, but I just, you know, want to start a conversation at our level to kind of make sure that we, you know, kind of start tackling these things, because I think doing a state version of the NSDI is an important thing to do. Go ahead, Lisette. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I just wanted to, I think that he had mentioned, you had talked about possibly creating a working group or some kind of representative for Connecticut. And he did mention to nominate representatives for the National Geospatial Advisory Council. Do we currently have someone on that council? And if so, and if not, can we elect one or the council motion to elect one?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure if we have a representative there. But yeah, I mean, I think I would be comfortable with this group, selecting someone to kind of nominate and then go from there. Yeah, we can investigate that and we can report back and let everyone know.
Great, thanks.
Anyone else have questions, comments, thoughts on this particular topic?
Thank you.
Someone on the phone would like to say something? All right. Well, so this is the last slide in our presentation. Uh, I guess I'll wrap it up with just to say, by no means does the end of this meeting mean that this conversation is done. We can please continue it. If you feel like you would prefer to talk to me individually about any of these, please do. We definitely would like to, start tackling this in a little bit more formal way. Obviously, it's in our strategic plan that we do so. So we want to, do what it says on the plan because, that's the point of it. So yeah, as people have thoughts on whether it's ideas about data sets that are that we may want more guidance or standardization around, or if there's everybody thinks about like a good way to kind of make sure that we vet these things and come up with the ways that we create these standards. Once again, let's have those discussions. Let's talk. That is what we are here for. And then beyond that, we will plan to start doing outreach, both in person and virtual, on the NSDI and many other topics. I think one of the things that I can say that you can anticipate to hear from us in the future is we do plan to have more and more outreach sessions, webinars, and just more of a voice of like, hey, check these neat things out, or hey, we have important things to say about data sets that we've created. I will say, well, both as a warning and as a call to excitement, is that we will be noisier on that front. So whether that is a good or bad thing, I'd leave that to you to decide. So with that, I think we're good to wrap up the meeting, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Elfrida.
Thank you.